Good morning. I'm going to demonstrate how to do program 6. First of all, let's look at the assignment description. We are to produce an algorithm which I provided for you, so we want to look at it at some point. The first version of the program is to compute utility charges for one student. And if you read this, it says customer data must be read either from the keyboard or from a file, which means for this program we may need a file, so we will provide for that. And then it says here is a solution key, that is, it is possible for you to run a solved version of the program to get a feel for what happens. Now let's review the inputs. From the inputs, the first input will be the name of a file, or it will be the word none, all caps. Let's look at the program in a little more detail. Let's see what's required for the program. Well, it looks like we need some variables. I've given variables for you here. So let's begin the program with what we said we can begin with. Let's find the algorithm. Well, first of all, let's solve the problem using the key. So let's take a look again. Where is the key? The key is in the repository and has a name, this. All right, so let's go ahead and get it. It's in the repository. What does that mean? I can say CP status, put in the name of that, and out comes the file. Now, therefore, we can get the file out. How do you do that? CP copy, and we have the file. Now, let's suppose we're going to have some input data. What does data look like? Well, here's some sample data right here. So what we can do is just use this as the sample data, create a file. I'm going to call the file customer. And you can put the file in here. You can put the data in here. You could do this using Pico. So right now we have a file that contains customer data. We have the key program, which we can now run to get a feel for how things work. So let's try it. How do we run this? It's an executable, so all we got to say is / this file name. All right. Would be helpful if I spelled this right. And now we have the program running. It's asking, do we want to use a file or do we want to do it from the keyboard? Let's use the file. We say the file name is customer, and out comes the output that you should get. All right, let's run it again. This time, let's run it. And for file name, we're going to say none. At which point, we must enter the data from the keyboard. Remember, we copied the data, so I can just paste it. And we have it. So either way we do it, we get the same output, whether it's read from the file or read from the keyboard. Now, so by now we understand the nature of the program. So let's look at the algorithm. I gave you an algorithm, and I said it's where? In the repository. So how do we find the algorithm? Just look for it in the repository. Algorithm. We have a number of these, and the one that we want is this, utility charge algorithm. So we need to get it. All right, take a look at it. And say more utility algorithm. And here's what the algorithm says. Now, when you look at the algorithm, as I would tell you in class, don't go crazy. Just look at the steps and ask yourself, do you know how to do each step? Secondly, What step is the most important one? Please say the first one. So let's worry about this program one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed by things. So, what's the first thing we always do? We always take the algorithm and we place that in our program as comments. So, what program are we talking about? Do we have a program anywhere? Right now we have no source files. Okay. How many of you realize that you can always use an old program as a starting point and just erase stuff you don't need? Or you can go and use an empty program shell that we have in the repository. Let's call it shell. We're looking for files that have the word shell. And there's a file called program shell. We're just going to get that out. It looks like this. It looks like the shell of a program. So let's go ahead and get into the program shell. Let's edit it real fast. What's the name of this file? What's the name of this thing? Utility charge .cpp. This is PROG6b. It's due on, who knows when it's due, 10, 15. Okay. What's the purpose? The purpose is to compute utility charges for one customer. I need to replace all this stuff. I'm going to do it quickly. Hopefully I've changed it. No, I didn't. Okay, that's okay. Same thing here. Oops. For the copyright, I'm just going to copy this. I don't need to type it twice. Alright. And we're going to save this. Oops, we need to save it with the right name. Program shell. We're going to call it utility charge CPP. Alright, so what do we have here for programs? We have utility charge.cpp. And what did I say we want to do all the time? We want to compare it. We're going to compile it. If it compiles, it means we haven't messed up anything to start with. So now, what's the next step? Well, we're going to go in and we're going to put the algorithm in. So let's see what the algorithm is again. We're going to see what the algorithm is, put it on the screen, and we can just copy what we have. And real quickly, we're going to go into the program. Going to put the algorithm in here. Okay. Notice that the program shell that we started with has placeholders for where the algorithm actually goes. This is a generic algorithm that does this. It just tells you got to worry about these things. You got to put the specific algorithm in. I'm going to do that right now. And I have to do a little magic, so bear with me. First magic is this. I know I want to border all these things, so I'm going to do that. Oops. Border it. Border it. Okay. And I think we've accounted for the algorithm. We don't need any more stuff. Now put the placeholders in here so that we can be sure to align things. Because what do we have to do? We're going to have to do this. Yes, it's taking a little time to do this, but once it's done, it's done. Let me do some magic here. Try to align everything. Almost done. Okay. Okay, so I think we have about everything ready. Clean this up a little bit. Okay. So we're going to stop here. Now we have the algorithm in. The next step is going to be to put the variables in. Okay? And how do we do that? Well, you know yourself. Let's go in here and let's go see where the variables are. Let's go ahead and go to the bottom. It tells you the variables. So let's roll with this. Copy this. I'm going to do it. For the customer name, we've got to be aware that it can contain spaces. It's a good reminder. We need a charge. Oops, do this. We need a file name. This is the name of the file. Or it's the word none. Now notice you don't have to be. It doesn't take much just to take your time and do this. Just take your time and do it. I know I need to put an end in here. We're going to just clean this and be done. Excuse me. Okay. And working all the way down. Got the customer name. It's just 4 things. And now we compute charges. Sometimes you want to put a space in between the inputs and the output. Compute it. Charge. Kilowatt hours used. Put that above this because it kind of comes first. Okay. And that's about it for program, first program. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up here, and as we did before, we're going to try to compile this. Okay, so let's step back. What do we have? What do we have here? We have a first version of the program. We have all the variables we need, and we don't have any code yet, but it compiles, which means we're off to a start. Let me show you one more thing. We can actually make an attempt to submit the program and just see what happens. Okay. We can attempt to submit it, and let's see what happens. We can say CS submit PROG6b, and we have utility charge.cpp. We can go ahead and submit it, and in the process, what do we have here? Okay. Notice that the program is not producing output, so you get no scores, but at least it compiles. With that, we're going to stop the video and come back, and this time we're going to fill in the code